Lesson 3, Unit 6, Participatory Planning. What is participatory planning? We start this unit with a general definition. In development projects, participatory planning is an approach in which everyone who has a stake in the project has a voice, either in person or by representation. In participatory planning, each participant becomes an important contributor to the planning process. Key stakeholders, especially beneficiaries, are given the opportunity to participate in the development of the project implementation plans and have some role in the decision-making process. The active participation of key stakeholders in the project is one of the key success factors in development projects, not only during the design phase, but during the entire project life cycle. During the planning phase, participation of key stakeholders is critical to ensure that project plans are grounded in reality and respond to the context of the project environment. Additionally, participatory planning provides an opportunity for key stakeholders to understand the project and build ownership of its results. Some of the advantages of participatory planning include it increases the ownership of the intervention, it builds a strong commitment from stakeholders, it improves the planning of the project, and builds trust between the stakeholders and the project. Although there are many benefits for participatory planning, there are also some limitations and risks. It takes longer to come to a decision and an agreement. It requires investment, time, and resources from the project. It can be difficult to get it right, especially if the organization doesn't have the experience. Additionally, it can be difficult to manage expectations when there is no clarity on what is expected from stakeholders. Each project will require participation during the planning process. The level of participation can be different depending on factors such as resources available, availability from participants, and understanding of the context. There are 3 levels of participation to consider during the planning process. These are consultation, cooperation, and collaboration. Consultation refers to a minimal level of participation in the planning process. In this situation, there may be limited options to develop the plans, or the project has already developed implementation plans and seeks to improve them with the feedback from key stakeholders. This is a situation where the project does not have much time or resources for a deeper level of participation, or there is a good understanding of the context of the project. The feedback provided by the participant is then incorporated into the plans. The second level of participative planning is cooperation. Here, the project and participants decide together as to the best course of action. The project shares some of the decision making. This type of participation is needed when the project has a low understanding of the context and participants can help with new ideas. There is also the need for participants to build ownership of the project. The next level of participation is collaboration. This is a situation where the project and key stakeholders have a commitment to work together in a close partnership, where all parties involved have shared responsibility for the success of the project. This level of participation is best when the project does not have a good understanding of the context and needs local expertise, and the project has the resources to invest in this type of participation. The process for participatory planning usually consists of the following steps: the identification of the stakeholders, the organization of the planning process, the facilitation of the meeting sessions to develop the plans, build consensus on the decisions made during the planning sessions, and complete the plans. The first step in the participatory planning process is to identify the people that will participate in the planning session. This is an important step that needs careful thought. The quality of the plans will be dependent on the type of stakeholders that are invited to participate. The number of participants has to be small but representative of the key groups affected by the project. A small group allows for a better interaction during the planning sessions. Participants can include representatives from the following groups: beneficiary communities, local authorities, partner organizations, local NGOs, and even local institutions. In this step, the project will organize for the planning process, including the agenda for the planning session. This step begins with sharing information that participants will use to prepare for the planning session. It's important that participants are well informed about the project content, the planning process, and the roles and responsibilities during and even after the planning session. Information to share includes the logical framework, initial risk analysis, and project assumptions. The number of meeting sessions depends in large part on the number of plans the project wants to include in the participative process and the complexity of each plan. The number can vary from 2 to 5 in a short period of time. To lead the sessions, it's important to have a person with good facilitation skills who can manage the participative process. The first session is the kickoff session and will set the stage for the next meeting. In this initial meeting, it's important to set the expectations, the scope, and the roles and responsibilities for the planning sessions. This step of the process is to develop the project plans. For each major plan, the participants will agree on the priorities and goals, select the options available, and agree on the decisions made as a group. Once there is a consensus on the plan, the next and final step is to integrate all plans, communicate all stakeholders, and follow through with participants during the implementation phase. This is important as it lets them know that the project is making progress. It is good practice to reconvene a follow-up meeting with the participants of the planning session to review the progress made and make any changes or modifications to the plans to improve the performance of the project. Project managers must incorporate participation in the project planning phase and choose when, what, why, and who will participate, taking in consideration that asking too much participation can also have a negative effect. After all, stakeholders have other priorities and activities that the project is competing with. The project manager must be conscious of the time availability and effort needed from stakeholders. Project stakeholders vary, and the level of participation also varies depending on who they are and what are their stakes in the project. The project manager should identify all project stakeholders and evaluate the level of participation needed from each one of them, when the participation is needed, and why the participation will increase the impact of the project.